So in my opinion, Ironheart is not perfect. Hell, it's not even great. But it ain't the worst thing Marvel has ever made. As it stands right now, Ironheart is way, way better than She-Hulk, and it is much better than Hawkeye. Again, only in my opinion, I feel like it's on par with Falcon and Winter Soldier or Daredevil Born Again. I enjoyed the show for the most part. I think the biggest problem with it is that it's inconsistent. And when I say inconsistent, I mean that it ranges from very weak scenes to great, great moments. And it's not just episode to episode. Sometimes it's from scene to scene. But the most important thing I want you to take away is that it is nowhere near as bad as people try to make it seem. This is conjecture here, but I think a lot of the hate comes from the fact that we have a female Black lead of a show. Another thought that I have, also purely conjecture, but I think this has a lot of evidence to it because I've seen a lot of the debates and the back and forths online. I think that Riri Williams' character questioning how special was Tony Stark as Iron Man and what made him Iron Man really rubbed a lot of fans wrong. As an audience and people who have been following the MCU since its inception, we can look at that and say that's a really bad statement to make just because the entire third movie of Iron Man was dedicated to pointing out that Tony and displaying that Tony is indeed Iron Man and a bad man, even without his suit. And so for her to make that statement, again, I can see how it turns off a lot of people. But let's change gears and actually talk about the show itself. And I'll start off with the positives. One of the good things about the show is that as an introduction to a character, as an origin story for a character, you now have all the backstory that you will ever need for this character, as well as you have a good place where you can introduce this character, show that person in a bunch of different situations, and we never need to touch on what happened and what brought that person to this place in the MCU where now they're on the cinematic levels with other heroes. We saw that journey. It's done now. We never have to revisit that. That's a good thing to me. Another really good thing about the show is the character's aesthetic. Like Riri Williams made a conscious decision to use a physical suit, not nanotech. I'm glad that they went back to that look and feel. It allows you to have some really cool moments and transitions from her being in the suit to being outside the suit. It was really cool stuff to see her move around in it. And I like the look. It's a choice, and I like the choice. And one thing I feel like is not being talked about enough as a positive for the show is the Hood as a villain. I think he's a really solid villain. What makes him a good villain, in my opinion, is that he has some things in his life that you could sympathize with and you can understand how a person sets out down that path. But you also see the decisions that he made along the way have brought him to the point that he really can't be redeemed too much. And so that was cool that you introduced him and you gave him some things that people could connect to and say like, okay, I see why he started out this way. But then you see, hey, he kind of went too far. And that's also cool too. It makes him a villain. He's definitively a bad guy, but kind of get it. The final positive is going to lead me right into my negatives. And the final positive is that I think a lot of the show is well acted and well directed. But leading into the negatives, not all of the show is well acted and well directed. I feel like episode 4 is the standout episode where there were clearly some weak scenes that they chose to roll with. And I don't think that is just on the actress playing Riri Williams. I feel like it's direction. There were times where Riri's character was obviously guilty and the scene was written in a way where like no one really paid attention to the guilt that was on her. And I just watched that scene and said, yo, it's really obvious that she had something to do with John's death. Why are y'all not paying attention to it? This is bad writing. This is bad direction. You should have her play it in a different way. She could still be uneasy, but it should be played in a different way. And that's just one scene. There was a few scenes in episode 4 I feel like is really standing out as bad direction acting, in my opinion. Another huge thing and why I think a lot of people didn't like this show and were so vocal about disliking it is that when you have an origin story, you go through the growing pains of that character. This is a origin story in a show format, so we get to see multiple bad decisions and multiple issues come up with our main character. So we get to see all the flaws at once. And that's not really a great way to introduce a character, but it happens over and over again where you get to see Riri make bad decisions. And even when you get to the finale of this little season that we got, she makes some decisions at the very end. It's like, oh, you learn all your lessons the hardest way possible. I thought you were smart. And so that's how a lot of people felt when they watched the show. I get what they were doing. I don't necessarily feel that way. Like I said, I enjoyed it for the most part. I don't think it's the worst show in the world. But having a show format and then going through all the growing pains kind of can make people sour on a character. My last negative for the show is a really, really personal thing, and it is the inclusion of magic. Now, I don't watch all the trailers, but I did watch a bit of the marketing for this one. I think I saw at least 3 trailers, and I saw like the Doctor Strange style glyphs on the ground moving as if it would power the suit. And I knew magic would be present. I didn't know it would be so prevalent in the show. I'm not a fan of the magic use anywhere. And again, that's a really personal thing for me and my wife. We don't really like those shows that include magic. We skipped Agatha all along due to the magic and the witches. Like, we're just not into that. You can go back years in my life, the Lord of the Rings movies where there's like goblins and books and sorcerers and people with little wands. Like, outside of Harry Potter, and I really wasn't even a big Harry Potter fan, I just don't do the magic stuff that well. Doctor Strange, his films, it's about the far as I'll go. And this last one, the Multiverse of Madness that he had, I felt even in there, it was like, hey, we doing a lot of stuff that I don't really care for, but that's just a personal thing. What did you think about Ironheart? I thought Ironheart was a solid show. Not the best, but definitely not the worst. I had fun with it. If they do come back around with it, I'm hoping that they can stray away from some of the magic and like involve her on a higher level, and fighting bigger, better villains that are more popular than Mephisto. But let me know your thoughts if you have any in the comment section. And that's all we got for this one, y'all. Enjoy yourself, guard your heart, and go watch something good.